day 470 off the grid, and it's before breakfast. Yes, I've got the railway station watch today, but it's before I've even had my shower. First thing I did when I got up this morning was do some battery work, because we've had a little bit of an issue with the A bank here, the day batteries. They haven't been performing that well into the night recently, and I was wondering if that's because we've been getting less charge, you know, now that it's well into the autumn. I mean, we're pushing the Samhain pretty soon, or whether there is a problem. Well, I got up in the, well, not in the middle of the night, but sort of close to dawn, and I looked at the voltmeter, and when we were finished with it last night, the volts were reading 12.2 after doing our usual television night. But when I looked at it this morning, the volts were down to 11.9. Now, how can the volts be down to 11.9 if there's been basically no loads on this battery all night? Yeah, there's a small parasitical load of the inverter there doing its polling thing and stuff like that, but that's not significant. So I started testing with my clamp meter, and I was looking for parasitical currents, but I found something quite different. I'm not going to get my meter out again, but I went clamp, 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 but I found this funny thing around the place of this battery. There were currents flowing into this battery, even though there were no loads. There was actually current flowing into this battery. So you were getting like amps coming this way into this battery and amps coming from this way into this battery, with basically no loads. Well, the only outgoing loads was a sort of a load that was maybe under 100 milliamps, but it was pulsing a bit because that's what that inverter does. I thought, this is strange. So I went and put on my cup of coffee and put on the immersion heater to heat the cup water like I normally do, and tried it under load. And even though that immersion heater was causing the batteries to put out about 10 amps overall, there was still a strange selection of currents in these batteries, because when you've got a big massively parallel battery bank like this, you'd expect current to start here and get smaller, more current, more current, more current, more current, more current, so the maximum current's flowing in the link closest to the output terminal. Same on the positive the other way. But it wasn't. The current's going up, up, and then down, up, up, up. This battery's not so good. And then I happened to touch the side of this battery, and it was quite warm. Not stinking hot, but quite warm. Lovely, lovely warm on a cold morning. And by this stage, I already had the suspicion that this battery's faulty. Obviously, this is where we're going with this, you know. So, after I made the coffee, I came out here, I put a bypass jumper from here to here, and then removed this link here and connected them together to isolate this battery. Well, I've just come in here now and put the meter across it, and what do we get? 10.8 volts. Yes indeed, this is another 10 volt battery, i.e. this is a battery with a shorted cell. So at some point recently, this battery has gone FUT. It's lost a cell. It's gone short. So I'm going to have to replace it. I'm better off with it out of the chain than in, because all it's doing is sucking juice out of the good batteries overnight. It's acting like a load, and it's acting like partially a resistor, and turning the power stored in these batteries into a little bit of heat all night. Not good. Not good. Well, that's the main point really, isn't it? I've got to replace the battery, and that's cool, and I discovered it, and that's how, what I've just talked about is how you discover bad batteries in a massively parallel bank. It's not that hard. Now, when I was measuring different currents here, the voltages between these points would have been minuscule. There would have been almost hardly anything at all, because these are obviously heavy links between the batteries, but currents can flow even at highly low voltages, and it's the current which tells the story. When batteries fail, they usually just either lose all their capacity or they lose a cell, like this one has. So it's probably got heaps of capacity in the remaining cells, so it'll probably end up in my new infamous 10 volt battery bank that I'm been working on and have been talking about. So I think that's enough now for day 470 off the grid. I wonder what I'll get up to later, but I think this is enough for, you know, because after all, this blog is really supposed to be about what I'm doing specifically with the off the grid stuff, not necessarily about the other things I get up to, even though sometimes I chuck that in for filler. So there we go, day 470. I'm pretty much picking this is going to work a lot better without this battery in situ, so I should keep you posted on that, eh? Okay, and here's the situation here now in the afternoon. I did actually identify a second battery that's dicey as well, unfortunately, but we'll see what we're going to do about this. But at least we've got one replacement here. At the moment I've got it on charge to bring its voltage up to that close to the bank so I can easily unite it. Now what do you want to say about it, Viking?
Now did you see this? This is actually my one. I brushed that one and drilled it and used the big drill. And also I used the hammer to bang it, use that anvil, so I can use it to bang. So basically this is going to help me make my computer. Hopefully it will actually produce a lot of power in the house.
Will it?
And yeah.
Yeah, so what I didn't mention was, yeah, the existing batteries, which you would have seen on the video, have flag terminals where these ones have internal studs. So we've basically been working on making these little copper adapters up so that we can use the existing link wires or link straps.
And if you see down here, it's almost going to be full in a few seconds.
Yeah, it's getting full. We're just topping off the battery. It was already fully charged. When that stops flashing, the battery's full.
Yeah, and then we'll put it over.
Then it'll go in the solar room. Yep, we've got to remove.
And then they'll produce much energy in the house.
Yep.
Which will be very good. And this is Tesla's sun signing out.
Right, fair enough. And look at that lovely dappled light falling on my newly installed, not battery, but batteries. Yes, I've put the Zenith 80 amp hour in there, and that's a good fit, you know, and that's why I had that spare one, because I bought 3 of them. 2 obviously over here on the 24 volt system for the freezer batteries, but I had a spare one, and its role was to be a spare battery for this bank, and now it's fulfilling that role. There's my adapters to convert. Now that's one that Viking kind of polished up to convert the internal studs to the flag kind of style. But then I also just threw this battery in here, and this is a Champion. It's actually just a flooded heavy duty starter battery, probably 4-wheel drive size battery, 12 volts of course. Shouldn't really be in here, but it's one of those sealed ones, so they kind of fit quite well with AGMs. I find I haven't had a problem with that, especially since I'm sort of hitting these AGMs quite hard sometimes and making sure they're sort of getting their mini equalize, as it were. So it'll work alright, and if I stuff it, it only costs me $10 from the garage, and I can actually swap it for a good one at the garage, so it owes me nothing. Again, yeah, so it's done its, you know, it's done its deal. Well, there it is. So I just would rather have all my batteries in the bank here than have a sort of a toothless grin kind of thing, you know, gap tooth, whatever. So we'll see how that goes tonight with the television. Basically, I'm trying to avoid running any loads off it at the moment, just to let these all kind of get settled in with the sun that remains. And yeah, that's basically it really. One more thing that I want to show, and that's on the outside. And you know, it's not all work and no play here. While I've been working on that, I've let the boys have a play around with the test bulb and the batteries that I've removed, just to prove that there's still some power in them, even though only 5 cells are operational. So what do? Start to burn things. Yeah, here we go. They're having a right little roast up here. Well,
And you see, have a look under that.
right, yeah, she's getting burnt up quite nicely, yep.
Yep.
But let's measure the voltage again, shall we, while we're at it? Okay, can you do the honours, because I've got the camera.
Okay, sure, I'll do it on it. Now,
right,
that's it.
Vicky's going to measure the voltage on the battery.
Now watch carefully.
Make sure the meter leads don't go on that hot bit.
Yeah.
Yep.
The lead on it, the black.
Yep.
It should be fine.
Okay, hold them tight. And what do you know, there we go. 10.5 volts. It's been running this test bulb at about 3.5 amps for over an hour, and we've still got 10.5 volts on here. I just wanted to show that in case some people have been watching some of my previous videos and I've been talking about my 10 volt battery bank and they're a bit skeptical of that. Well, you know, this battery has lost a cell, but yet it's still chucking out a useful amount of current. And I'm sure this one will be the same. So guess where both these batteries are going? They're going to my 10 volt battery bank on day 470 off the grid.
Off the grid.